we're going to start. Amy will be joining us, but she's just having some technical trouble. So for everyone watching, this is our Meet the Role Model panel. So our role models are people who work in different roles in digital and technology. And we have a few questions for them, and you can also ask your own questions in the chat. So I think the best place to start would be for everyone to introduce themselves and also their jobs. So when you're talking about your job, if you could just tell us a bit about what it is that you do on a day-to-day basis in a way that people will understand. So I'm going to ask you to go around in the order on my screen. So Lubna, if you could go first, please.
Hi everyone, my name's Lubna. I'm a front-end developer at AutoTrader. So I believe you may have met some of my colleagues earlier, a designer and a user researcher. So I actually work quite closely with them. And basically what I do is once they've figured out what kind of design they want, I actually help to write the code and kind of build that design in the browser.
Okay, brilliant. Lucy, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hi guys, I'm Lucy. I am a director at Refresh PR. So we're a PR and communications agency based in the Northern Quarter in Manchester. So in my job, I set communications and PR strategies for clients in the digital and technology sectors, which basically means I work with clients to help build awareness of their businesses in a number of ways, which includes things like securing media coverage in national, regional and trade media publications, making their websites appear higher in Google through things like search engine optimization, and also helping clients with really exciting things like social media and digital PR campaigns as well.
Brilliant. How about you, Chloe?
Hi everyone, I'm Chloe. I'm a marketing manager at a company called BGSS. I think you met quite a few of my colleagues earlier. And what I do is I deal with the digital aspects of marketing. So everything from SEO, like Lucy just said, to paid social media in general, so organic social media, as well as PPC, so paid for ads on Google.
Brilliant. I'm just going to add Amy into the panel and see if the audio is working this time. Might just take a few seconds to come through. So while we're waiting, I'll go with the next question, which is, I'll ask you first again, Lubna. How did you get into digital and technology?
So my journey as far as education is quite traditional in that I finished school, I went to college, I studied, I think it was multimedia, something like that. And then I went to university and studied web and multimedia, and then I kind of started working as a developer. But then earlier than that, it was just something that I kind of found online. So I don't know if the audience is too young to remember MySpace, but that's kind of like, I found MySpace and you could make like all these graphics and like modify your profile basically. And that's kind of how I got into it. That was really interesting to me. So I started like learning how to make these graphics, and then I had to learn how to make a website so everyone else can use my awesome graphics. And yeah, it kind of took off from there. I didn't really think of it as a job at the time. And then it just happened that I think I was like in about year 8 or year 9 when I kind of started getting interested in this. And by the time I finished school and was kind of looking at colleges, it just kind of came up like, oh, I can like do this and then it can be my job. So yeah, that's kind of how I got started.
Okay. Amy, so you've just joined us. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear
perfect. So we missed you off the first question. Apologies about that. If we could just ask you to introduce yourself and tell us about what it is that you do.
Cool. So my name's Amy Flynn. I am Digital Product Journey Manager at the Cooperative Bank. I currently work on savings, but are soon to be moving to lending. And my role basically is to ensure that customers are able to easily apply for currently our savings product, basically making sure that the information that we present to them is compliant, that the user journey is really, really easy and straightforward, and that they're able to successfully apply for products issue-free, really. And also kind of in things like in online banking and the mobile app, that we are able to entice customers to take out our savings products kind of testing and learning with the optimization team with kind of different messaging, different strategies, different kind of targeting approaches. So it's really, really varied. We're just working on a new website at the moment. So I've been working really heavily with the content team about how we reframe our products in a way that makes it easier for our customers to understand. We have things called fixed rate bonds, which doesn't really mean a lot to most people. So how do we explain that and the benefits of those to customers has really been my bread and butter for like the last few months as well.
Okay, that sounds really varied. And I know
really, really, no day is different, and every day is different. No day is the same.
People don't often think of working in a bank as something that can be digital, but of course it is for you.
Yeah, totally. It's the future. Like, you know, everything needs to be digitized, but it's not because we need to consider kind of security, accessibility, regulatory obligations. It's not a straightforward thing, because you've got to make sure that all of those different areas are happy, and that also ultimately it's straightforward for customers to use as well, which is the most important thing. Okay,
brilliant. So I'm going to go backwards now. So back to the question of how did you get into digital and tech? Do you want to share with us, Lucy?
Yeah, sure. So I think how I got into digital and tech was more a progression of my existing role, and things within the sector that I was working in increasingly moving online and digitising. So very much like Amy said, the way the world's going. So I started in PR. I went to uni and studied public relations and communications back in 2008. At the time, it was a bit more traditional. So we were writing for, local and regional newspapers, kind of helping with content, copywriting and things. Now, over the past kind of 4 or 5 years or so, that has absolutely moved, and we're doing a lot more online. Like I said, to support SEO strategies, we're doing a lot more social media. So for me, the move into digital and tech has more been, I guess, a necessity because of how the world is going and how a lot of jobs are going. But as well, on kind of a secondary side, a lot of the clients that I work with, and they're in the digital and technology sector, I really started specialising in the sector about 5 years ago. And if you'd have asked me sort of 7, 8 years ago if I'd be working in digital tech, I would have probably laughed. But I absolutely love it. It's so varied. It's exciting. It's dynamic. We're working with everything from startups working on really cool, interesting new tech products up to, huge technology businesses that operate worldwide. So very much for me, it was a progression of a more traditional job that has just gone a bit more online, and we're using a lot more tech now. But luckily, I absolutely love it.
Okay, brilliant. Chloe, how about you? How did you get into digital and tech?
Yeah, so a little bit the same as Lucy, to be honest. I went to university and did business and marketing, and I landed in a marketing role. And the last company I worked for was in real estate. And then when I was looking to change, I wanted a company that was a little bit more fast paced and kind of moved with the times a little bit more. And I ended up landing in a massive technology company. And since then, I've kind of grown my skills within this company to be a lot more digital. Everything is going digital. So got involved in the digital marketing aspect. So I, at my previous company, kind of worked on the website a lot. And that was something that I really enjoyed. So I carried on with that. And the more you kind of dig into a website, the more you find out. And there's so much you can do with websites. It's just kind of been a journey of adding something on where I don't have the skill set currently, and it's kind of turned into a very digital role now.
Okay, so similar stories we're finding. How about you, Amy? What's your journey been?
So to echo everyone else, it kind of by accident, really, a happy accident. In a previous life, I used to work in advertising agencies, and as with everyone, everything became more and more digital. My last big project was working on ClearPay. Before that got bought by a company called Afterpay. You'll now see ClearPay pretty much everywhere. And we kind of created like the initial version of that for our clients. So kind of creating with a blank sheet of paper, essentially, the mobile app, how that would work on a retailer's website, how retailers would then kind of manage those kind of payment applications and things sort of back end. So like literally like end to end from nothing to kind of creating something. And I was really, really fascinated by how we could make the journey the best it could be, and what options were actually available to us. Because when you look at similar products online, the journey is not necessarily as straightforward as you think it could be. And so kind of got really into looking at lots of journeys online and kind of picking like the best bits of functionality, and kind of asking how can we integrate that into our product to make sure that the ClearPay product is the best that it can be. And that kind of really kind of ignited a bit of a fire in me to kind of go, right, how can I pursue this and do something more with this? Because whilst my job was really interesting, and I did lots of different things every day, I was like, there's a lot of potential in this, and this is something that I can be excited about every single day. So yeah, completely a happy accident, but yeah, really, really, really pleased that it's kind of led me to kind of where I am now.
Okay, so for the next question, I'm just going to open it up and anyone can answer if you want to. So when we're thinking about role models, I think it's people that might get you excited about something or show you that you can do something if you feel excluded from it. So you may not think that you can go into an IT job because you're a girl, but then you meet someone who changes that opinion, or it could just be someone that sparks interest or excitement for you. So did any of you have a role model when you were younger that helped you get to where you need to be, or is there anyone that sticks out in your mind that's really inspired you?
I mean, I'll pick this up because I didn't really. I think when we were younger and in school, careers advice wasn't amazing, particularly around digital and technology. I feel that a lot of it was just portrayed as quite a male stereotyped job. I think there was very much stereotypes that every role in digital or technology was just you'd be sitting behind a computer all day, maybe writing code or something. And while there are a lot of jobs of that nature, there are also lots and lots more of completely different natures. A lot of them, aren't particularly technical. So they're based more around the softer skills. So yeah, in short, I didn't really. It was only when I really got into working with more digital and tech businesses and really found the digital and tech community in Manchester and the Northwest that I really started meeting some really good role models who I could speak to and learn about, and really learn about the breadth of roles that are available. And I think it's an absolutely amazing community, the digital tech community in Greater Manchester. So it was only really at that stage when I started going to events and things like this and networking and talking to people on Twitter, which is a brilliant resource for connecting with role models, I feel, in the digital and tech sector, that I really got that personally.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think when you look, you find, and yeah, I personally didn't find any particular role models, but it was more just being inspired when you kind of flick through things like LinkedIn and just kind of look at people's different career paths and how they've got there. Very few people have a linear kind of career path, and I find that quite inspiring just to kind of see and read different people's profiles and kind of how they've got to where they've got to, and if they've published any articles. I find those really motivational. And just kind of, well, if that person could do it, why can't I do it? Nothing is impossible if you put your mind to it, I find.
I think my kind of experience was a little bit similar. I didn't really have like a person role model, but I was inspired by like the possibility. So kind of like all these companies that started like in someone's garage, and now they're like Microsoft, like $1 billion company. So just that possibility that you could work on this thing online and it could become huge and impact like so many lives. And I think that's kind of what inspired me. I'd just like to be part of that, to be able to say like this thing that I built, it's helping like all these people like with their day-to-day, like whatever it is you're working on. Like if you work on e-commerce, you're helping like people like do their shopping, especially like now when we don't really have any choice, we have to do it online. So I think that's the part that inspires me more than kind of specific person, just kind of the opportunity that's out there. And like every day there's like a new product that's coming out, and we start using it, and then after a while it's like, oh my god, how have we lived like all this time without it? So kind of like those stories, I think that's the kind of things that I found really inspirational, and that's what like made me really want to be part of like the industry, to be able to kind of participate in that in some way.
Yeah, I think to echo what everyone else has said, I think I did have a kind of a role model, but it was my dad. I never thought that I would end up in IT, but I did. And he always told me that I would, because it's an industry that will just keep expanding every year. The IT industry gets bigger and bigger. And I think from my point of view, I was like, I absolutely won't, because I didn't think that kind of marketing would fall into that. But it turns out that there's digital in everything. And since kind of joining this company, I have met so many people in roles that I didn't know existed. So I kind of wish that I had had the opportunity to see how many roles there are. And if you go onto the kind of like Digital Her website and the inspiration wall, you'll see loads and loads of people and loads of different roles that you probably don't even imagine are an IT role. And I think learning what they do kind of inspires me to keep learning and keep growing in my role as well, because there's so much you can do. There's so many things that you can like achieve and keep growing your skill set. Like personally, there's so much we can do more than what we do now.
Okay, thanks for sharing, everyone. I'm going to share mine as well, because I do have a really specific one, which is just an English teacher who was quite funny and charming and charismatic, and I thought I want to be like that person. So I think role models can be as simple as that, like finding a trait that you admire in someone and wanting to emulate it for yourself. So next question again is for everyone. So obviously we're all sitting here now in particular jobs and careers, and we can tell kind of the story of how we got there. But if you were to go back and give a piece of advice to your 16-year-old self, what would you tell yourself?
I think I can probably go on this. Oh, go on, you go first.
All right then. It's awkward. I think the thing I would tell myself is to just like go for it and not be scared, because I think a lot of the time, I remember when I was like still kind of early stages in my career, like even kind of while at university and in college, I always wanted to do like more kind of like part-time jobs and things, but I didn't want to like kind of go and like work at Asda or something. I wanted to do something that was actually in my field. But every time I like looked online and like looked for the jobs and things, I was always like really conscious and thinking like, oh, well, there's all these other people and they're better than me and I'm not good enough yet to like do this. But I think you learn so much just like working on projects and things. So I think that's the one piece of advice I'd give myself, to just like don't look at everyone else, and like just to try and be a bit more confident in my own knowledge and my skills, and just kind of put yourself out there and go for it. And just kind of try things out, because usually I feel like you usually know a lot more than you think you do, and so that sometimes kind of stops you, where you think that, oh, I'm going to be terrible, but then when you get there you actually know what you're talking about and you actually do a really good job. So I think that's what my advice would be.
I think mine would be just, you don't have to have it all figured out at 16 years old. I think when I was 16 years old, I did. And actually what I do now isn't what I thought I was going to be doing at 16 years old. There's so much opportunity for you. Our careers are like quite a long time nowadays. There's so much opportunity for you to kind of bounce around and try different things out. Lots of the people that I speak to in IT have done 5 different roles and they've loved all of them, but they've been able to bounce around in IT because they've like loved the company that they've been in and they've just wanted to try something new. So I think for my 16-year-old self, I'd say like, don't have it all figured out. Kind of, if there's something you really love, like go for it and try it, but always know that you can change whenever you need to. There's so much opportunity, especially in the digital space, and there's so much opportunity in kind of how long our careers last these days, that people change their careers at 50 years old. It doesn't matter, like you don't need to get into it straight away.
I totally agree with Chloe. I'd pretty much say everything that you said verbatim. But also look at everything as an opportunity. Like, nothing is set in stone. You can, treat every job, even if it's a part-time job, but whilst you're studying, as an opportunity to learn a new skill. And any skill that I have ever learned has been wholly transferable in some way, shape or form into every other job that I've done. So I started in marketing agencies, not really knowing anything about digital, and I now work for a bank. And if you'd have told me that like years ago, I would have laughed at you. Think, why would I want to work for a bank? What's exciting about working in a bank? So yeah, kind of don't write something off if if you're not 100% sure what you want to do, and just find something that ignites like a passion inside of you, or that you can be interested in, and look, kind of see each role that you have as a stepping stone to like the next thing. Don't worry that you're going to have to stay in a one job that you start forever. That's not kind of really how it seems to work anymore. No one seems to have, not everyone, it's very rare that someone has one job in one company forever. So yeah, don't stress about that kind of thing.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And on the transferable skills as well, for me, it's massively kind of knowing that it's not all about the technical or harder skills. Like Amy said, there's so many other skills that are transferable. When I'm recruiting for our agency, yeah, it is to an extent important that people have the more technical skills and, the copywriting skills or whatever, but ultimately you can teach technical skills. It's the softer skills like the passion and drive and curiosity that are a bit harder to teach, but that we really, really look for. So what I'd really say is don't be put off if you think, I can't code or I can't do this more technical aspect of a role, because like I say, technical skills can absolutely be taught, and a lot of digital and tech businesses will teach those on the job. But think about what other skills you could kind of apply to a job. Like I said, I guess some more of the softer skills, and as well, just keep an open mind. Like I said, if you'd have told me a few years ago that I'd be working in digital and tech, I probably wouldn't have believed you. But it really, really is an amazing sector to work in. Like the other people were saying, there's so many different roles to try. If you don't like one, you can kind of move on to another. And employers in the region tend to be really good with that sort of thing, and there's lots of opportunities for kind of cross movement across businesses and things. So it really is one of those sectors that just isn't linear, and that's okay. You have just got to kind of be willing to have that change if you want to. Brilliant.
I think everyone's touched on transferable skills. We've got a question in the comments there, which is there any type of job which is related to business and IT? So could any of you maybe give an example of how business and IT could be linked, or do you know any jobs for people who are interested in studying business?
So sorry, I didn't quite hear the question properly. My sound's got a bit fuzzy.
That's okay. Is there any type of job which is related to both business and IT?
I'd say mine definitely is. If you're studying business and IT, business will teach you an appreciation of how kind of business works, and IT, obviously the mechanics and everything that sits behind it. In terms of like specific roles, I couldn't kind of there are so many, it would be really impossible to kind of list them all. But I'd go back to the transferable skills, like what are those disciplines teaching you, and what can you, when you look through roles on the internet, where are the crossovers, and where are the kind of the gaps that you can fill in with some outside learning.
Yeah, I think in terms of that question, they're both such broad kind of areas that business and IT are probably in most jobs. I know that in my job I use both business and IT. So you'd have to kind of find a job that you like on the skill set that you have, or what you'd like to go into, and then you'd probably find out that you kind of are across both of those kind of areas.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we see a lot of crossover between business and IT, because as you say, Chloe, they are in every job. So I'm going to move on to the next question. We all talked about what advice we give to our 16-year-old selves. Do any of you have any top tips for a 16-year-old who might be interested in digital more broadly, or doing your job specifically?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, just keep learning, keep reading. For me, still, kind of 10 years into my career, it's reading, whether that's kind of national newspapers, digital and technology specific publications, blogs, social media. There's lots of different kind of brilliant people from a wide diverse of companies in the sector tweeting, kind of groups, networking sessions. Like I said, the digital and tech community in Greater Manchester is really, really brilliant. And just by going out there, personally for me, and meeting people and, people who might be doing jobs that you might be interested in, or things that you might not have necessarily thought about before, and just having that opportunity to talk to as many people as you can. And like I say, just keep learning and be passionate about it, because for me personally, it is all about the passion and someone that's driven and curious. Like I said, the rest of it for me personally can be learned on the job. So yeah, just keep going at it. And I think as well, if you've got any time to do any side projects, if you're interested in, maybe becoming a digital copywriter, you like writing, maybe starting up your own blog, or something like that. If you're interested in getting into social media as a job, then you having, strong, good social media profiles will help as well. I'm just speaking for a couple of areas that I kind of work in. But I would say that if you could kind of get a side project, however small it might be, within kind of the area that you're interested in working on, that would absolutely be appealing to employers, knowing that you've invested that time in your spare time and you are really interested in it.
I second that. I think side projects are so important. Obviously for the employers, because like Lucy was saying, I think a passion for something, you can really tell if someone's doing something because they really just love it, or if perhaps they're just doing it because they couldn't think of anything else to do. And I think that comes through a lot through side projects, because if you don't really like it, you wouldn't put the time in. But also it gives you an opportunity to try a thing before committing to it. You can have many side projects. It just gives you an opportunity to kind of go out there and try things. If you feel like you kind of want to be do any kind of development stuff, then there's so many courses online now on YouTube, just everywhere. Just try and do a course or a tutorial, put something together, see how you feel. If maybe you don't quite like that part, you can then switch and try something else. But you can kind of keep all that, and you'll have that to kind of look back at and go I kind of tried that. I didn't quite like it, I maybe moved on to this, and then eventually you'll end up finding the thing that you actually do really love. So I think for anyone who perhaps isn't quite sure what it is they want to do, I think just trying them out. I mean, they don't have to be massive projects, and you don't have to take them very far, just little things that you can do on the weekend or something. But it'll help you kind of narrow down what field you're interested in. And also then you'll have something to kind of show, if you do go for interviews or anything, you'll be able to show these projects, and you'll be able to talk about it to the employers. And even if you do happen to stumble onto a thing that you try that perhaps you didn't like, I think just having that experience is actually quite valuable, because then firstly, you'll know in yourself that that's just not for you. But also you'll have some knowledge because you gave it a go. So you still kind of have a little bit of insight into what that thing is. And then again, you'll just be able to talk about it and be able to say I tried this thing. It wasn't really kind of my passion, but I understand how it works. And I think that's really useful too, because a lot of things in digital are kind of so intertwined that it's usually useful to at least have an overview of what all these other things are, even if you're not actively doing them as a job.
I think for me, internships were the kind of way that I found out what I wanted to do. So I knew where I wanted to be, and actually the internship that I had when I was younger. I'm now friends with a lot of people in the industry because of that internship, and I've created more relationships because of that. So I think if you can get internships or kind of hands-on experience, that will always help you. It'll help you to understand kind of what the working world looks like and how like things run. But it will also give you the kind of head start of what your like personal skills are. And it will teach you how to kind of communicate in an office environment. It will teach you how to kind of have the confidence in yourself when you're going into interviews and things like that. So I think for me, any experience you can get on the side, it doesn't matter if you didn't enjoy it, you still had it, and it will still build you up. That's probably, my main piece of advice.
So all of the above, and also I'd kind of empower yourself with knowledge. So kind of reading things like the tech press, the tech press, tech blogs, any kind of industry specific within technology, for example, like finance. If you're really interested in getting into digital technology in finance, check out blogs like Monzo and Starling. They're so interesting in terms of how they approach things, and also it will give you an awareness of what's actually available to you in terms of like roles, but also when you start applying for jobs or kind of considering careers, you'll be able to talk with confidence and knowledge, and employers find that really interesting when you're able to talk about, why did you decide to kind of apply for this role? Well, I really like you because, and kind of be able to like reel off things that you know about them, like the amount of times that you'll ask someone a question in an interview, and when you ask them what they know about you, and they kind of look at you quite blankly, it's quite awkward. So the more that you can do to kind of empower yourself with knowledge, and kind of be able to speak with confidence about things that you're really passionate about and interested in, it will kind of, it will stand you in really good stead.
You just set me up for my next question there, Amy, quite unintentionally.
Oh, right.
But it's really important to talk with confidence and knowledge, and I think that's an important part of any job or when we're considering next steps or anything. So I'd be really keen to hear from you guys. What's your biggest success to date, and what is it that you learned from it? Obviously take a moment, it's quite a big question.
It's hard. I'll go first. So I think my biggest success has been taking a complete risk. So moving from marketing into analytics, that was kind of a complete culture shock. So I'd gone from an agency setting to a startup SaaS setting, which SaaS stands for software as a service. And it was a bit of a leap of faith, but it's kind of, it opened my eyes to, a different world, and, it enabled me to get the role that I have now. So I'd kind of, that would be where I'd kind of pinpoint my biggest success, just being brave enough to take a risk. Definitely.
I think
Go next. Oh.
We did that again.
Go on, you go first.
I think my biggest success is becoming a manager and having a team of people that work really succinctly with me. So being able to get a team on board and making sure that they're all working collaboratively together. Sometimes it doesn't work very easily. So I think my biggest success is probably taking on that challenge and making sure that the people around me feel as empowered as I do in my role.
I think for me, my kind of overall, I would say, is kind of getting to the stage that I am at now. So I started our Auto Trader 5 years ago as a graduate developer, and in 5 years, I've actually progressed my career up to senior developer, which is quite a quick career progression, and it's something that I'm really proud of, that I've been kind of able to do that, because obviously I put the time in and it was important to me. But from kind of a day-to-day, I just thought it'd be interesting for like something we've learned. We recently worked a lot on our Auto Trader search form, and at Auto Trader we get about 50 million unique visits a month, which is a lot. So changing something as fundamental as the search form was kind of a really big project, and we actually learned a lot on that project, and there was a lot of unexpected things. Like we changed things that we thought were going to be much better for users, but then they hated it. And so kind of going through that process and kind of learning it, even though you're trying to improve this thing for people, but then they end up not liking it just because perhaps they're used to the old one. So kind of that balancing act, I guess, of making sure you do right by your user, as well as right for your company to from your commercial goals, and kind of balancing that. I think we're kind of coming to the end of that project now, but I think that was a project that I was really proud of, and I liked how we kind of handled that balance and made sure that the end product that we ended up with, the users were overall pretty happy with, and we were pretty happy with the outcome as well as a business. So kind of it aligned in the end, but the journey was a little rough there for a little while.
I'll kind of just finish really quickly. Mine mirrors Chloe's in a lot of ways. My biggest success is probably around building up and managing a team that's performing really good work, producing great work for clients, and loving coming into work every day. And I think that's massively about kind of the team that we've built up and the client portfolio that we're working on within the digital and tech sector. PR and communications can be quite a fast-moving sector. You need quite a lot of resilience, so it's really important that we've got happy and healthy teams that are loving coming into work every day, because I think the happier a team is, the better work they get done, and the kind of healthier they are as well. So for me, it would be absolutely building and developing an agile team that can work remotely or from an office, that are producing great results and that are happy ultimately.
Okay. Those are really interesting examples. Thanks everyone for sharing. I think being able to talk about something that you've done requires a lot of kind of confidence and belief in yourself. And I know that doesn't just come naturally for a lot of people. I think you have to work quite hard at it, especially as a woman in digital and tech at the moment, where we are quite underrepresented, but we are working hard to change that. So my question for you all is, do you have any top tips for either building confidence or faking confidence? What advice would you give to someone if they wanted to feel or appear more confident?
For me personally, it'd be do things that make you nervous, do things that challenge you and genuinely that take you out of your comfort zone. It might sound cliche, but for me, that's the best way I've built up confidence. I used to hate public speaking. I hated getting up in front of a crowd. I would have never done anything like this, even virtually. But a big part of my progression and my job now is pitching to people, speaking to clients, advising clients, speaking in big rooms at conferences, venues and things. And sometimes literally 15 minutes before I'm about to go and speak, I think, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do this. And you've almost got to pep talk yourself. And the adrenaline afterwards is amazing and you feel amazing. But for me personally, it was kind of making myself do that's helped build my confidence in it. And it is actually really fun when you do it. It's just kind of getting confident enough. And for me, that really is, stepping outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, totally agree with that, Lucy. I'd also say, if you ever find yourself doubting yourself, I find asking people for feedback rather than worrying about what people, if you're worried about how you're performing in your studies or in a role, just ask people for feedback, honest feedback. Constructive criticism is really, really valuable, and people really respect when you ask for that, because not many people do. I think everyone is a bit scared about what someone might say to them, but if it gives you pointers to improve, then you'll actually be more confident about asking for it the next time, and that will really, really help you progress. You don't really find progression in a comfort zone, so it's kind of finding ways to that you can improve or acquire new skills. What would help me perform better or achieve more from someone. If you can't figure it out for yourself, ask questions of people, and people are really, really, you'll find people are really, really open and willing to help you if you level with them with that kind of honesty.
I think in terms of what I do is a bit of what Amy and Lucy have both just said there, but also if I'm doing something where I'm really pushing myself out of my comfort zone, and I'm a little bit nervous to do it, beforehand, I'll just make sure I do something that I know I'm really good at and that I know I'll win at. So if I was a little bit like nervous about coming on here today, then I might have gone and done a tiny small task beforehand that I knew I would like smash out the park. And then I've got that confidence in me to go and know that I can do something. And then the next thing becomes a little bit less of a task because I've already done something in that day that I've done really well. And it gives you that tiny bit more confidence to go and do something that's really nerve-wracking afterwards. So yeah, I think make like the balance of doing both, doing things that you know you're really good at, and making sure that you're pushing yourself out of your like comfort zone, but making sure that you try and do them in a balance rather than one week doing loads of stuff that you're really good at, because lots of people do that with their to-do lists. They go, I'll do all the things that I know I'm really good at, and then all of the things that I push to one side end up all coming one after the other. So I like to try and make sure that they're kind of in tandem with each other, and I'm not doing loads of things that I really love doing one day and then loads of things that I've been putting off the next day because they make me a little bit more nervous to do.
Really good tip. I'm going to have to steal that one. I think for me, it's a bit about a kind of starting small. So obviously for everyone, there's kind of different aspects of kind of like doing public speaking and stuff that people find nerve-wracking. To some people, it might be like the size of the audience. So in that case, I would say like maybe start with like really small groups, so like 4 people, and just like present to those 4 people. Maybe they're people you know, so you feel a bit more comfortable. And then like do the same presentation to like a slightly bigger group and so on. Or for other things. So for me, when I started getting more into like public speaking and doing presentations, the thing that I was really worried about was that because like I'd go to a lot of like tech conferences and all these people start like they're so knowledgeable, and the thing I was worried about is that I'll say something and someone else who knows more than me will kind of like call me out on it, and then I wouldn't like know how to answer their question or something. So to me, that was like the one thing that made me super nervous. So what I started doing is talking in more kind of educational aspects. So giving talks to people perhaps who wanted to learn tech. In my mind, they wouldn't necessarily be able to call me out, even if I did accidentally get something wrong, because obviously it's like I'm kind of teaching them. And so that gave me that like a little bit of confidence. And then once I started doing that a bit more, you kind of like be able to grow into that. And I feel like now I'm more confident, like just kind of talking to big groups, even if perhaps they do like know a lot more than me and more kind of senior than me in my role. But I think that's the kind of advice from me. Just if you kind of try to pinpoint what is it about this that is like making you nervous, and then try and start small. So try and kind of take as much of that aspect of it away, and then kind of build up to the kind of end goal. And also I think as well, lots of people always give like lots of different advice, but it's good to remember that like some things don't work for everyone. So for some people, like they might give you some advice and it works really well for them, but then when you try it, it doesn't work. But I think that doesn't mean that like you're terrible at public speaking or you have no confidence. It just means that maybe like that particular advice doesn't work for you. So finding the things that work personally for you, I think that's also important. So don't get discouraged if you try a technique and like it doesn't work for you.
Okay, that's excellent advice from everyone, I think, on the topic of confidence. So this is my last question for everyone. If anyone watching has any, if you drop them in the chat now, then we can ask the panelists. But I think we've heard today that for a lot of people working in digital and tech now, we kind of found our way into it through something else as things have quickly digitized, and that also is the future across all different kinds of industries, which I think is fantastic. That's been the message throughout the day. But I just wanted to hear from all of you, what's your favorite thing about working in digital and technology?
I'd say...
Sorry, go on.
No, oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I'd say the fact that the possibilities are pretty much endless. in terms of what is possible. So things that are possible now weren't possible a few years ago. Like you couldn't even dream of some of the things that we're able to do now. Yeah, it's just kind of, you know, if you've got an idea and the technology to do something, you could then potentially, you know, build something else off the back of that. There's lots of developments that you'll see throughout, you know, when you log into your online carts and like your different retailers and, you know, your banking apps and things, you'll see things that you know that didn't exist before, and you're like, oh my god, this makes my life so much easier. Isn't that amazing? People wouldn't have been, you know, the teams that have been working on that would have had no idea that that was, you know, even within realms of possibility like 5 or 6 years ago. So yeah, an ever-changing landscape, definitely.
I think mine's quite similar to that. And also, as well as kind of the landscape changing, it means that your actual job kind of changes. From a developer's point of view, like every couple of months, or even more often than that, there's like a new technology that comes out and it does things like a little bit easier and a bit nicer. So I think it's nice that it's always changing and there's something new to learn. Because I think if you ended up doing kind of the same thing day in, day out for like 20 years, that could get really boring. But the fact that it's changing so fast and things are advancing and new things are coming out and there's like something exciting to learn, I think that just makes it kind of more interesting, and it makes you look forward to kind of the next few years, because you'll know that, like, I don't know, the kind of languages and the types of code that I'm writing today, I probably won't be doing them in 5 years because it will have all evolved and it will be all different. And I personally find that really exciting because it just keeps you kind of looking forward rather than getting bored of what you're already doing.
I think for me, it's about how fast-paced this industry is. No day is ever the same. So I was talking to a friend the other day who's quite bored in her role at the moment, and she was saying, like, what does your day look like on a day-to-day basis? And I was like, I couldn't tell you, because every single day is different, and that's why I love it. But I also think one of the things that marketing kind of sits well into, and so does technology, is that you can change industry so easily. It's not a job where you're stuck in an industry. So you could work in retail, you could work in, lots of people don't know, but we work with loads of public sector organisations and lots of healthcare organisations. And I've spoken to a couple of people that said they wanted to be doctors when they were younger, but they didn't have the skill set for it. So they became an IT kind of designing things like apps for the healthcare industry. You can jump between anything and everything. And I think that's why it's such an exciting, I mean, digital is kind of an industry. It's an exciting industry within lots of different industries, and you can move. So you could be working for a bank one year, and then the next year you could be working for like a fashion e-commerce company, and you can keep changing. And that's why the role won't ever get boring, because when you start getting a little bit bored, something just changes again. And if it's a new technology, if it's you changing industry, it can keep going. And yeah, the possibilities are endless, I guess, coming back to Amy's point.
Yeah, I echo that. It's exciting, it's fast paced, it's dynamic. I'm never bored. No 2 days are the same. But also I find it really welcoming, particularly in Greater Manchester. There's a brilliant tech community. Like I say, there's a lot of meetups, events, sessions like this. People want to help people. People want to share skills. People want other people in the sector to do well. I genuinely believe that. I've always felt very, very welcomed into the sector. Obviously, having organisations like Manchester Digital helps with that, bringing the community together. But for me, working in a sector where there are all these community events and panels and things where everyone is excited, and in a year ago we might have been in a room with 200 people, we might not be for a while, but this feeling of mutual excitement that things can be done, and these possibilities, like you say, that are endless, and everyone